Welcome to our presentation on AI resiliency as a new pedagogical lens. We are Eline, Laila, and Johan. And today we will talk about AI. A lot of students think that AI is their ultimate group project partner. It's fast, smart, and basically does everything. Which is great, until you realize that you didn't learn anything. And that is why we introduce AI resiliency as a new pedagogical lens for curricula. In this presentation, we will start by introducing why we need a new pedagogical lens. Then we will look into the definition and implementation of AI resiliency in curricula. And lastly, we will take a first look at how to evaluate AI resiliency as a pedagogical lens. Our approach follows the ADDIE model, a model often used in instructional design that stands for analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. In the first analysis phase, we define why we need a new pedagogical lens, which is to find a balance between preparing students for a future where AI is omnipresent and protecting the students' and programs' learning goals and integrity. For the second and third stages of the ADDIE model, design and development, we define AI resiliency as AI-resilient knowledge, skills, and attitudes. In the implementation phase, we map the current AI resiliency through an analysis and synthesis and align the learning goals with the identified AI-resilient competencies. In the evaluation phase, we discuss methods to evaluate whether applying AI resiliency as a pedagogical lens leads to more AI-resilient students and graduates. We do not do this theoretically. Rather, we illustrate the value of AI resiliency through a case study in the architecture program at the University of Antwerp.
In the first step, we start out by analyzing why we need a new pedagogical lens. One of the main challenges that educational programs are faced with due to AI is the need to do a balancing act. On the one hand, programs need to prepare students for a future where AI is omnipresent. This means that students need AI literacy. They also need to critically question the AI's assumptions, biases, and limitations, and they need an awareness of ethics, sustainability, and legality. On the other hand, educational programs need to protect students and their own learning goals and integrity, which has been built around discipline-specific competencies. This balancing act is also required within the context of the EU AI Act and its need for AI literacy in education. Currently, the emerging AI technologies cause programs to focus strongly on the immediate challenges it poses for assessment, often focusing on things like fraud, plagiarism, and developing AI-proof evaluation methods. However, a broader discussion on the impact of AI on the curriculum is necessary. We need a pedagogical lens that views AI as a systematic influence, requiring a systematic response, that approaches curricula as adaptive systems that are able to respond to this challenge in a flexible way, and we also need a view that approaches AI as embedded within the broader and discipline-specific competencies that are the foundation of curricula. We call this lens AI resiliency, as the main idea is that curricula need to respond in a resilient way to the challenge of AI, starting out from their own disciplinary competencies. When applying the lens of AI resiliency, we use a competency-based approach. We first identify which disciplinary competencies support AI resiliency of the curriculum. Then we detect where these competencies are taught. This enables us to reveal gaps and opportunities to increase AI resiliency, and in line with the idea of constructive alignment, in the last step we align the learning goals and the teaching and evaluation methods to make the curriculum more AI resilient. As you see, the change in teaching and evaluation methods is the outcome of our exercise and not a starting point as a reaction to AI. After the analysis, where we establish the need for a new pedagogical lens, we start out by defining AI resiliency with the building blocks of competencies: knowledge, skills, and attitudes. This is effectively the design and development phase within the ADDIE model. The design phase is aimed at compiling a list of disciplinary knowledge, skills, and attitudes that are needed in order to prepare students for a future in which AI is omnipresent. The development phase is aimed at transforming these AI-resilient knowledge, skills, and attitudes into a tool for curriculum building. In our case study, the design phase consisted of a symposium with 22 experts in pedagogy, architecture and technology from all 5 Flemish universities and international guests. The outcome of this symposium was a list of necessary knowledge, skills and attitudes needed to build an AI-resilient architecture program. In the development phase of our case study, we added a second dimension distinguishing between relevance for textual generative AI, visual generative AI, or hybrid generative AI, where textual and visual use cases are combined. We also addressed gaps from the symposium using Microsoft Copilot. In the second step of the development phase, we added a third dimension to the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that were defined in the previous step by indicating whether they are AI independent or AI focused using stars. AI independent knowledge, skills, and attitudes do not have a direct link with AI. For example, knowledge on architecture in social and legal contexts. One-star knowledge, skills, and attitudes do have a direct link with AI, but do not require active usage. For example, knowledge of textual AI models. 3-star knowledge, skills, and attitudes require an active usage of AI. For example, research skills using generative AI. This phase of design and development led us to a well-defined matrix of 30 AI-resilient knowledge, skills, and attitudes, 4 of which have a direct link without requiring active usage, and 7 of these require active usage of AI.
As an example, we will zoom in on the AI-resilient knowledge of hybrid generative AI. There are 3 AI-independent knowledge components: basic research knowledge, knowledge on architecture in social and legal contexts, and knowledge about thinking and learning processes in architecture. There are 2 AI-focused knowledge components. First, basic knowledge of digital technology, which has a direct link with AI as it could include knowledge about how machines think and learn. Second, advanced knowledge of digital technology, for which an active usage of AI could help, for example, to build knowledge on prompt engineering. As a second example, we will zoom in on the skills related to textual generative AI. This section of the matrix illustrates the importance of both AI-independent and AI-focused skills. Writing skills without assistance of generative AI is an AI-independent skill. Writing using text generation is an AI-focused skill. The next step in the ADDIE model is the implementation of AI resiliency. We do this on 3 levels: micro, meso, and macro, in a bottom-up process that is competency-based and rooted in a continuous and ongoing dialogue. In the architecture program at the University of Antwerp, the micro level is composed of the courses. The meso level is composed of learning tracks, which cluster similar courses, such as, for example, the construction or design courses. The macro level is the curriculum as a whole. As this is a bottom-up approach, we start at the level of the courses with a kick-off workshop. The dialogue initiates within the learning tracks and then feeds into the dialogue on the curriculum level. 38 teachers participated in the kick-off workshop, representing all 5 learning tracks of the program. Each teacher mapped their AI resilience. Which AI-resilient knowledge, skills, and attitudes are present in our courses and how? And which AI-resilient knowledge, skills, and attitudes do we want in the future? This resulted in 10 posters which were thematically grouped per learning track. For the dialogue on the meso level, we created 2 tools. First, diagrams that visualize current and future AI resiliency based on the posters at the micro level. Second, archetypes that help craft preliminary visions on AI resiliency that are either progressive or conservative and either autonomous or cumulative. Progressive means that the teachers are open to exploring new AI-resilient knowledge, skills, and attitudes in the future. Conservative means the opposite. Teachers rely on the already embedded AI resiliency. Autonomous means that the achieved AI-resilient knowledge, skills, and attitudes in one course are not related to the content of another course within the same learning track. Cumulative means the opposite. The AI-resilient knowledge from one course could be used as a foundation for AI-resilient skills in another. As an example, we show how we implemented this for the learning track Visual Skills at the University of Antwerp. On the left-hand side, the individual courses are listed in the order in which they appear in the program, from the first bachelor year up until the second master. Dark colors indicate the current AI resiliency, and light colors indicate future AI resiliency. The diagram initiated an analysis of both the current and future AI resiliency of the learning track. And the archetypes help to identify the progressive and cumulative nature of the learning track. The resulting vision of the visual skills teachers is as follows: a core of AI resilient attitudes, progressively adding AI resilient knowledge and skills that build upon each other, a combination of AI independent and AI focused resiliency. And when confronted with AI-generated artifacts in the disciplinary competencies, for example, within a course of Photoshop, the emphasis will lie on the interpretation of AI-generated artifacts rather than their in-class generation. The dialogue on the learning track level directly feeds into the dialogue on the curriculum level. Here, we define AI-resilient competencies and introduce an alignment table. The AI-resilient competencies translate the bottom-up identified knowledge, skills, and attitudes into concrete AI-resilient competencies. The alignment table aligns the learning objectives and core competencies with the AI-resilient competencies. For the architecture program at the University of Antwerp, we identified 6 AI-resilient competencies: self-regulation, positioning, visual literacy, and textual literacy, and academic literacy and digital literacy. The implementation phase at the University of Antwerp is still ongoing, but we are happy to present a number of short-term results. First of all, the kickoff workshop opened up the discussion amongst teachers, offered a moment of reflection, and most of all, created awareness amongst colleagues. The dialogue within the learning tracks offered a chance to refine the AI-resilient knowledge, skills, and attitudes and tailor them specifically to the U Antwerp program. Moreover, during the conversations between teachers of the learning track visual skills, specific new lectures and exercises were conceived. On the curriculum level, we have defined 6 AI-resilient competencies and established a feedback loop with the program to embed AI resiliency as a pedagogical lens.
The final stage of the ADDIE model is the evaluation of the pedagogical lens. We want to evaluate whether applying the lens of AI resiliency leads to more AI resilient students and graduates. Goal is to keep track of the AI resiliency and make continuous improvements. This is especially important since the field of generative AI is still in full development. The evaluation will focus on the wider curriculum, but also on the different stakeholders, teaching staff, students, and graduates, taking into account the wider work field. On the curriculum level, we can map AI resiliency and see which AI resilient competencies are in the curriculum using, for example, an alignment table, as we have shown before. Among teachers, the impact of AI resiliency can be evaluated using surveys, focus groups, and analysis of teaching materials. Among students, we can supplement surveys and focus groups with evaluating whether students have reached the necessary competencies. Surveys among alumni and employers, as well as focus groups, can help evaluate whether graduated students have achieved the necessary competencies in the work field.
To conclude, we would like to go over our main contributions. We have introduced AI resiliency as an adaptive and systemic response to AI as a systemic influence. This goes beyond assessment-oriented issues such as fraud, plagiarism, or control, and toward curriculum building. In our bottom-up and competency-based approach, we position AI within a broader set of competencies. AI resiliency is thus supported by AI-independent and AI-focused knowledge, skills, and attitudes, which then lead to overarching AI-resilient competencies. Our approach is context-specific, which means that the disciplinary competencies are the foundations and there is no one-size-fits-all. We have created 2 tools that define AI resiliency. First, the matrix, which can be used to structure AI-resilient knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Second, overarching competencies that are composed of AI-resilient knowledge, skills, and attitudes. Furthermore, we also introduced 3 tools to create an AI-resilient program: diagrams to map knowledge, skills, and attitudes on the meso level, an alignment table to map competencies on the macro level, and archetypes to help capture bottom-up visions. If you have any questions or want to know more about AI resiliency, feel free to reach out. Thank you.